I'd like to do a special edition on radiant heating. This has been a big revelation for me to understand that for the cost of dirt from my foundation, I could build a 5-ton flywheel for solar heat. And by the way, in the summer, those shades might be closed and the sun is directly overhead, so this whole area is shaded and is very cool, as if air conditioned. It actually feels as if it's air conditioned. Again, dirt cheap, heating and cooling with, in this case, straw bale insulation with micaceous slip to make it glow, provided by Owl Peak. This look means that we have one of the least expensive homes to build. Without any heating or cooling costs, really. A lot of the wood that we recycle for the fireplace is just gathered up around town, or cut up pieces of lumber from building projects or whatever. We don't need much to break the chill in the morning after a cold night. I'm going to show you once again my cob wall greenhouse, because even though it's snowing now and has gotten way below freezing temperatures, the adobe wall in here, the cob wall, has kept the plants from freezing all winter. It's now March, and so the radiant heat coming off of this adobe wall is keeping plants thriving despite below freezing temperatures in here. This is the greenhouse with chicken wire painted with an oil-based paint to keep it from corroding, pulled real taut, and then plastic placed over the chicken wire, so that on a day like today, when we've had 60-mile-an-hour winds whipping across these fields, the plastic moves an inch or two and won't shatter in the brittleness of the night. So I've been really impressed with the fact that plants could use radiant heat that way, and wondering why not humans. And I'm glad that the principle was applied in building my straw bale walled home. Very cozy, no heating or cooling costs, and built for $40 a square foot, which is almost unheard of. Solar electric powered, so that I can enjoy Wi-Fi and Spotify and music. At any time, because I have now you wear your skin like iron, and your breath's as hard as kerosene. Since we have batteries, in a battery box here on the north side of the home, maybe we can see it down here. Yeah, there's the battery box through my north window. so that we can have electricity without paying anything for it. The solar panels paid for themselves a long time ago. And I'll turn down the music here again. And
nobody heard his dying words. Oh, but that's the way it goes.
The few thoughts that I had that I want to share with you about radiant heating, not needing insulation really, just aluminum to bounce back the radiant heating. That's what we put underneath the floor of homes, all along the dead air space, underneath the floor of the trailer homes, for example, here in Espanola. We just put a reflective foil that bounces back 97% of radiant heat. That foil is available at places like Home Depot and Lowe's, so that for $150 we can insulate the entire crawl space to keep the heat from the solar collector. And my work in the Andes, we began to find an interesting way to use radiant heating, which I'd like to explain up ahead here. But right now I want to tell you about Taos High School. They built a greenhouse which will have a blower attached to a collector that will blow hot air through cement pipes that have the two channels, and then return the air back out to the outdoors. So we're taking dry New Mexico outside air and blowing it in through cement block, which is all covered with dirt, so that the plants can actually grow with their root system heated by the sun. And the reason why we're taking solar heated air or outside air at the intake right there for the solar collector is so that we do not recirculate humid greenhouse air. We don't want to use the air in the greenhouse and recirculate that because of the possibility of molds and fungus developing in the tubes here and possibly eventually shutting off the flow. We use 2-hole cement block plenums. The high school students are excited about the performance of the greenhouse this winter. And what we have here is root zone radiant heating, which is sort of like what is coming to me for the Cobble gardens. It's basically what we had in the Cobble gardens of this area all around El Rito. There were like 100 of them, or thousands actually. There were 100 pueblos, but 1,000 of these Cobble gardens, where the rocks would absorb the sun, holes would be poked through the rocks, and then seeds planted down in those holes. And then they have found that the rocks would suppress the weeds and radiate heat towards the corn during the day and night, so that the radiation from the rock, which does not heat air, allows the corn to grow in freezing weather. Now, the solar garden idea is one that I have not actually implemented, but I think would be a wonderful experiment for students by taking rock and then smaller rock and then gravel and then your actual planting medium up above. I should have put a thicker planting level there of compost and soil and that sort of thing, with a solar collector blowing heat through the rock. So that, this technology in Bolivia is with liquid. from Lake Titicaca, for example, they run solar heated water under rocks on planting beds that are 200 feet long, like this. 200 foot long planting beds with 1 meter deep water in between the planting beds. Oh, it's such a gorgeous technology in the Altiplano of Bolivia, so that at 14,000 feet they grew corn and had ducks. Okay, ducks, they found duck bones and of course fish bones in the areas in between the planting beds, which are called socaccoyos, socaccoyos in Quechua. And in Aymara, which was the principal civilization of the Altiplano, Tiwanaku being its religious base, where the 100-ton rocks are that are perfectly, oh God, what's so beautiful. Oh, 100-ton rocks, perfectly carved. The Aymara. They're the ones that call it Sucacoyo, and the Quechua call it Wada Wada, which kind of sounds to me like water, don't you think? They use water in between the planting beds, so this water would be coming in from Lake Titicaca and then shut off, and then they would plant here, and underneath their planting beds were rock connected to the water, so that the solar heat, the high intensity solar heat of 14,000 feet would heat the water and allow the solar heat to pass underneath the rocks and underneath the planting beds, so they could go corn at 14,000 feet. I mean, such a beautiful technology, and one of many that maybe we could use. Understanding that the radiant heating doesn't matter. It doesn't care what the air temperatures are. So that we could take this concept in modern day Espanola Valley, for example, and use it for growing plant food with let's see where we have a solar collector, perhaps heating the rock. But now don't forget, it could also be convective. If you could put the solar collector at an angle under the planting bed, then air could flow passively behind the absorber plate through the rocks. And I mean, I could even imagine possibly adding a chimney and painting it black on the south side so that it would pull the heat through. I mean, that's getting a little, over the top. But I don't want to forget something that I'm remembering, which is many know how difficult it is to keep a stock tank from freezing, so that animals can come in and drink of the water. They have to often use a pick to smash through the ice, and so we actually had on the Navajo reservation solar panels attached to the bottom. And maybe there would be a fence to keep the animals away from the solar collectors, keep them out. But the heat would enter into vents at the bottom of the collectors, maybe made out of fiberglass and some kind of metal absorber plate, and then flow underneath the tank through rock. So the entire area would be the airflow would go through rock and then come out the other side either naturally or assisted with a stovepipe painted black on the south, so that the sun would heat the collector, heat the rocks, and the air would be sucked through with a suction system, so that the water in the stock tank would never freeze. And this actually occurred on the Navajo reservation, although I haven't gone to see the site. But we should take these same principles and consider incorporating them in every single building built from here on in the Espanola Valley. There's no reason why we shouldn't take this incredible gift to keep us comfortable here in the Espanola Valley, remembering that this was the birthplace of the grassroots solar energy movement of the USA. And because utility costs have been kept down through tremendous subsidies, let's just put kept down through subsidies, benefiting the industries, right? We have no ordinance that all buildings, all new buildings, our new city hall, how about, be solarized? And that all new electrical generation in this area be off of solar panels, not new generation stations, but solar, where every rooftop can contribute to the grid for all of us. Yeah, it's sort of a declaration of interdependence and dependence on the sun, as opposed to something destroying the earth, fossil fuel.